All right. Hello. Welcome to another edition of Low-Code Campfire. This is episode 115 for September 15th, 2023. This is an open lines Friday. It really is. There is no topic selected, so we're relying on you today. I am Dale Warner, Head of Support for PlantinApp, joined today by Patrick Anderson, Technical Success Manager at PlantinApp. We get together every Friday this hour to talk about PlantinApp and the challenges and opportunities that are facing us. We record all these, put them out on YouTube, so there are 114 episodes already out there ready to watch. And gee, that would consume most of a week, I think, if you wanted to watch all those back to back. But they are published out there, so do subscribe, youtube.com/PlantAnApp. We'll run this agenda today. We always do first call. We'll get to some of the other things, and then after an hour or so, we'll go into our Afterglow segment where we'll compare apparel and raise a virtual beverage. So do engage with us, jump in, show and tell. The main guidelines are to, if you got noise going on behind you, to mute and to be nice. You can submit questions and topics in advance. You can use that QR code to do it, or it's also present in the emails that we send you, or you can send me an email directly, dale.warner@plantinapp.com. So with that, good morning. Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We're going to go right on to first call. Anybody have anything that they're working on?
Well, I'm definitely working on stuff.
Mark, you were muted, but your lips were moving. I couldn't read it.
Yeah, I do that a lot. So I was happy to see Don here because he's always got a good question.
I don't have a question right now. I'm fighting through that little project that I explained, and you gave me suggestions last week. And I'm not working on it full time, so I couldn't get it all. But I did spend a lot of time last night, spent half the night on it, and early this morning, and it's moving along really well. And I learned a couple of interesting tricks that as soon as I get a little bit further and actually can show it, I think I'll throw it into the contributions because I had to, I had to fight for it, and a lot of the times the other guys that are on this call have given me a lot of help when I asked for it, so I thought I would, give back.
And we appreciate that.
In the near future, I'm going to once again have the realm here, or the helm. I'm sorry, the helm for a day, and I'm going to count on you, Don, to bring something to us that day to get us through the call.
Oh, you bet. Yeah, Dale, you did the contribution for working with checkboxes.
Mm-hmm.
I've built a whole thing based on that, so it works out real well. The application I've mentioned before is a vote by mail system for a county, and what they want is if you are voting by mail, you need to specify: do you want to vote for primaries, and if so, what party do you want? What ballot do you want? And sometimes it's just the regular two. And then sometimes there's other parties that are there. So what I've done is to try to make this, all seasons kind of an application is I've given, I created a management screen for the county clerk. And what she does is she goes in there and she selects which parties are going to be on the ballot at the primary. So you can ask for those. And of course, there's a bunch of them, but seldom are they all there. Maybe an additional one. Maybe there's a couple of people in the Green Party or the Libertarian Party, and there's always Dems and Republicans. So I made that a list. I'm sorry, I made that a
Entity?
not even. No. I'm trying to think what the right term is. In the checkbox, it's a list of items, and so that's where it originates. So all of the possibilities are there, and then she checks them, and then it becomes a comma separated string.
Right, the checkbox does that automatically,
which does it automatically. So I've been working off of that comma separated string for manipulating it the rest of the time. So for instance, now that I have that on the ballot form, the electronic ballot form, I have to show which ones are offered so somebody could choose. But that they only can choose one. So that's a radio button. So I pull that in, and I can I figured out a way, and this is what I was telling you in the support tickets, Dale. The if you take the comma separated string and you just put that into the items, it's just one option. So you end up with a radio box with one radio button and Democrat, comma, Republican, comma, Green, comma, and that's it. You don't get, it's not split into the choices as you would hope. So what I did was I wrote a Razor script that converts that comma separated list string into putting them on individual lines, like what items wants. And then that gave me the choices that I needed. So that was one thing that I did. And then they choose, and then that gets stored in the application. And as you recall from last week, I was saying I was going to generate PDFs, and then Ben had the idea of just generating a whole bunch of HTML and then putting that into a PDF so that it's a multi-page PDF without all of the file thrashing. And so I'm busy doing that right now. But when I do that part of it, I have that comma separated list in the application as what's being offered. And that way I can always rebuild the PDF, because I always know for this particular application, these were the ones that were offered. And then there's another field that said which one they chose. And then from there, I can make a little checkbox for which one they chose to be put on the PDF. But to do that, I needed to use the create. I forget what the right term is, but it's creating a list from a CSV value. And I take that same Razor script that breaks it out into pieces and put that into what the CSV source is, and then that gives me a list, and from there I can build the HTML for each of the ballots that are offered. So very cool. I want to put all of that in contributions, and then be happy to show you how it all worked, because there's a number of little things like that that are like, how do you do that? The other thing was dates and times. So I've it's all monkey see, monkey do. Unfortunately, I don't really understand the full syntax of Razor script, but I'm enjoying figuring out one little piece at a time.
Yes. So one of the things I think that you encountered was when you're trying to split that apart, one of the options was trying to do it by way of SQL, but your SQL server wasn't compatibility level wasn't high enough to take advantage of that.
String split was as of 2017, I think. So mine, for whatever, and I asked them, and they said, yeah, you can bump it up, but instead of doing that, I thought, well, at the same time, Razor script would be quicker, wouldn't be jumping over to the SQL server to ask for the split when the C# could do the job.
Don't forget about the built-in DNN split ability.
I did.
And I did too when he asked the question. I didn't point him back to that either. So I was going to see what this normally outputs. Field value. There's also a JSON array that comes out of it, which would be another thing that you could probably make a list out of a JSON array. So that would be
That's true.
Another way to
And
go
then I
about
could
it.
have done that in one step. That's true.
So just for fun here, I'm going to do, ENT, there we go. All right. And this particular form that I'm working with, I was showing it last week. It takes all the stuff that's here and just outputs it into a result. So let's see, the array element, checkbox list array has Republican and a little hard for me to read that. I'm going to go to my favorite tool here. And I'm on less than high-speed internet today, so my screen doesn't refresh all the time. Yep. So yeah, we got the checkbox list JSON array came back with an array that's just two names separated, and I suspect you could have sent that to a list as well. So
Exactly.
lots of ways to skin it. Yep.
And that wouldn't have added very much in the way of characters in a field in the database. So just storing it as a JSON array would have been, in retrospect, simpler, because then every time I needed it, I wouldn't have to run it through that Razor script that breaks it into pieces. I could have just used the create a list from JSON.
Yes, probably. Cool. All right. What else?
Was that a what other questions do people have?
Yes, it is.
Well, I do have one. I'm sure you could help. I don't use APIs a lot. And so since time passes in between each, I kind of forget. So I'm trying to create an API that I will use on a form on a field change. So someone changes a field, I want it to call the API, and it's just going to get a value that's going to put it into another one of the fields on the form. So my question is, how do I get the right value that comes back from the API? And I suppose that's a JavaScript something that's going to grab it, and it might be best if you have an example there ready at hand that says how to get what comes back out of an API. We can look at it. Otherwise, I can show you what I have on my screen.
Well, it might be great for you to show us what you've got, but the challenge is that as the writer of the API, you get to decide what comes back. So therefore, you have to build something that matches it.
Yeah, building is our thing, isn't it? So let me see if I can get to the right page. There. All right. And share screen. All right, hopefully you're seeing an API builder.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so this is an easy thing, really. It's receiving. My way around very well. It's just a get, and it's being given an exercise, which is going to be something like this text code or that one. It's also receiving a part, which is the name and it's going to be A, B, or C. And what it's going to do with that, it's going to look up something, and it's only going to return one thing. There. It's going to return one value, one word, something like that. And here's where I don't know what I'm doing. I want to get that word out. Is this the right way to ask for it or designate that I want it? Just by using a raw response.
So yes, that will that will put out the one word without anything else, right? So there's other types of responses that you can use that, but this one, yeah, you just have full control over it. So it's putting that without any formatting, one way or the other. So
that's fine with me, I think.
Yep. And so when you run and test it, it's getting you what you want.
I think it is. Let's see. There it is. Okay, that's the words that are supposed to come back. Okay, so I see this is my jQuery that I should use to call it. And I've done that. See, this is the part where I really have the question. Process to response. I don't know how to do that. So here it is over in the form. I've pasted that in. I've got the same sample text in there that worked just in our example that I just did. There is a field whose field name is P_exercise, and I want the description that we saw from
Data.
the API to go in there.
Data.
You wrote response, you want data.
Like that?
Yep.
Hey, that's great.
Yeah, it's basically what that's saying is that when the AJAX request is done, it's going to run a custom inline function, and it's going to pass whatever the result of the API was to the variable name that you put in, and you put in the variable name as data. So that's what you need to use inside the function to reference the data that was returned. If you change that name data to something else, like if you had changed inside the parentheses of the function parameters, if you changed it to response, then you use response inside.
Okay, I don't have that mental picture in my mind where I would be changing that, but so I'd like to come back to that. But at the moment, yeah, I still want that to happen automatically, run the API. So it didn't.
Which field did you have the
on change?
Yeah, the on change, which
on the word part, which is here. It's a radio box. And someone would choose A, B, or C, and in the on change.
Does
Is there something obvious?
Does it need to be data dot something? But I'm not sure what it would be if you because well, no, it'd have to for it to be a property of data. There would have to be a JSON response, wouldn't it?
Yeah, if it's a raw response, it's just straight text string that's being returned.
Pat,
the bracket around the P_exercise is correct.
Yeah, that should work. But you know what I sometimes do is it sometimes works. I don't know why in some situations, but you could do form.fields.p_exercise.value. You could try because that's what that token should translate to. But sometimes
like this.
No.
Just replace
just directly.
The whole thing with form.fields. Just replace the token with the what should be the so forms.fields dot and then move to the end, get rid of the last bracket and do dot value.
And just checking.
Value.
Make sure.
I'm looking at you
great
guys
to have
instead
8
of the
people
screen.
looking at
So many error checkers. Does that look better?
Yeah, whole group of people putting pressure on you.
I'm looking at you guys instead of looking at the screen. Okay.
So just to validate, P_exercise is that case correct?
We'll find out. That should have done something. Yeah, it should have happened right when I chose the part A or B. Okay, so yeah, I think you've already answered the question that I wanted to ask, and I don't want to drag you through all these iterations of figuring out what's going on or what's not.
But then again, once again, you have a whole bunch of problem solvers on the call.
Okay, well, I don't want to
we
take up everybody's
we want
time.
to. We're all like we want to dig in and find out what's wrong.
Why doesn't it work?
Pretty much.
What is the what's the field? Can you show us the definition of the field? P exercise.
The exercise. Yep, that's not going to match, is it?
There you go.
Is that the field that you're supposed to be updating?
Yeah, the field ID is different than what I was expecting it to be. I think that's not what I'm being updating. That's what it's feeding. It's what's feeding the API.
Yeah, so I think Dale's asking about the field that you're supposed to be updating. Right, Dale?
Description.
Yes.
That's where it's supposed to be going.
Yeah, so there you go. That's
Okay.
And just this is case sensitive. So again, we're making sure that you copy and paste. And then you're sending wait. Oh, in your case, you're just sending it raw data at this point. So it doesn't
you're hard
matter.
coding it. Yeah.
As opposed to what? You guys are drawing that distinction. I'm not sure what you're saying.
Obviously, not obviously, I shouldn't say that, but you're in the end, your intention is to have exercise and part tokenized so that the exercise they choose and the part they choose will be the description that you get returned, right? Right now, they're not tokenized. They're hard-coded as D, E3, and A.
Oh, yeah, I'll tokenize it in a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I get it now. I wanted just to make sure that, change the variables one at a time kind of thing.
Yep.
Okay, let's try that. And I was hoping to get a description.
So a couple of debugging thoughts here. One is, oh, good.
Go ahead. Sorry, there was a delay.
Yeah. A couple of debugging thoughts. One is that you can use console log to send stuff out to see what's executing. The other thing that you can do is to add debugging into your API to see if the call is even being called, right? I mean, we're seeing something's not working. So is it that it's not being called or it's not being stored the way you want?
Okay, so what should I test? How it is, if it's actually being called? Would I put its data value into something like a message and pop it up? Is that what you're thinking, or?
So if you edit your API, you could put a log event there to see that it's being called. So if we edit and, for example, add an action here, that would be log event. Exactly. And then you could put your same response into the log just to see that it's working. So
which one of these should I choose?
It doesn't. Admin alert is probably a really good one. That's one I land on.
Okay, so what's coming back is just
put the same value that you're putting into the raw output. Put that into the yeah.
Is that right?
Yep.
That's right. Like that?
Yes.
So that's the word that's going to show up. That's the value that's going to be returned, hopefully from the previous output, right?
Right.
Okay. That should have gone to the log, right?
With nothing exactly, because we didn't provide any values, but yes.
Went too fast. Okay, admin user 1. Okay, so it did something, but it didn't return a value. Okay.
Which was right, because you didn't provide a value. You didn't provide the inputs. So now if you run it from your form, we should be able to come over here and see that the API ran or didn't run.
That should have triggered it.
Yes.
It doesn't look like another one is there unless it's way down.
Right. So what is the security on your API?
It is public. Associated with this domain. Okay, now where is that? I don't even know what it's called. Are the new ones at the bottom? Photo exercise.
Look up exercise description.
Here it is. Yes, thank you. I mean, what to click.
Yeah, go ahead, but back in the pencil. Yep.
Okay, and what was the question now?
Security, so the bottom section.
Only domains associated with current portal, public access.
And then have you made since you copied the code for the API, have you made any changes that would have that just want to confirm that that the code you have in the on change click is matching up?
I'll do it again. Exercise D1, process response. We did this part. That's different.
Yep, it looks right. So then I think for me the next step would be to start doing what some others were suggesting was well, I guess we know that at least the API is not being called, so we know that's not happening, but maybe putting an alert here somewhere just to see if this JavaScript is running at all, and then and then from there we got to get deeper into it. Any other ideas from?
Yeah, one of the things I often do would be to totally remove security during development to make sure that there isn't something unexpected happening there, and then adding it back in, of course.
Let's do that. Is that public?
Yes.
The way to do that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's working, it appears. And now there's no security, and think we can test it. We've also got an alert.
So the JavaScript is running.
Another thing we could take a look at is the console to see if there are alerts, errors on that call, right?
I'll bring it up. Doesn't appear to be.
And since you changed the security, does the log have anything now? No.
And you do have to refresh here.
Oh yes, that's right.
This one, I just opened it, didn't I?
Oh, we're getting lots of stuff.
All this. It's truncated. Well,
Well, no, that trunk when it says truncated, this actually I had just this very scenario earlier this week. That truncated to 500 characters is talking about the error message itself. It's not so if you expand that, it's just telling you that it truncated the error message.
Yeah, I was already trying to think if my response was more than 500 characters.
Yeah.
Okay. So where is the response itself that it's truncating?
Well, that is the response. You're shooting 8 shots, the purpose of blah, blah, blah. So it's saying description was longer than 500 characters, and you can't see all of it here in the log, but it did run.
Did run.
So, and actually, it might have been running originally. We just didn't refresh the log. So
yeah.
So we're getting it running.
Getting it running.
Yep.
So, but it's not here.
So maybe
is there does the calling that JavaScript function automatically do an Ajax update to refresh that field on the form?
it's a great question.
No. Should it?
Oh, when you clicked in there, it appeared for just a moment.
Did it? Good
I
eye.
think so.
I thought I saw that earlier too, but I thought I was imagining it. But yeah,
Okay, so
right.
if I were to have done this with a button instead of an API call, I would have done the Ajax. But since I did it here in the on click, I didn't think that I was going to be doing that.
But this should not require that.
Well,
because I feel like I've done this before. Maybe a scope refresh, but I feel like I've done this scenario before and it's worked. That's
do you know the syntax for scope refresh?
No, I don't.
I have to look it up every single time I use it.
The
Ben, you know it off the top of your head, don't you? No.
But he's muted to keep us all in suspense.
Yeah.
No, I know I have it somewhere, but I haven't used it in a little bit.
Wouldn't that need to be right inside the underneath the form fields?
Yes, it would. Yeah, immediately following that. Yeah.
Immediately following what?
The form
So
fields.
yeah.
Yeah, I am just making that up. I don't know that that's right. Okay.
While we're thinking about that one, you don't need the alert anymore at the top. And just a reminder, you could console log the data, which would then provide all the proof that you're getting of what you're getting back. Right. So after data before your scope refresh.
Okay, yeah, I could, but at the moment, I think we're seeing that it's working, right?
Probably.
It's just not coming up to the screen.
I think it's if I'm not mistaken, $scope period $apply paren.
Scope. Say it again.
Yeah.
So get rid of the parens. $scope. After the period, $apply, and then function parens, open, close, semicolon
A semicolon?
at the end.
Outside.
Like that?
Yep.
Should we try it?
Exciting.
Oh, I can't wait.
Oh yeah, so digest is what I was thinking of, but that still does not seem to be working.
Out of curiosity, is there a reason you're using a text box? Oh, it did
it
appear
appears
for a split second.
right. What is causing that?
There was another method
I can't see it.
I remember.
The specific line I was thinking about was scope $digest was the
You want try that?
but I think at this point we're all kind of like
Yes, I want to try it. It would be exciting.
I don't know if I can handle all this excitement. Okay, give me the syntax again, please.
So I don't have a $sign at the beginning where in the uses I have, it's just scope $digest, open close parenthesis.
Is it like that?
Yeah.
Probably comment the one above or remove. Yep.
Okay, does it look good? Let's see. Yeah, honestly, I didn't think that
Shouldn't there be a $sign before the scope?
In my usage, it's not there.
Oh,
It works where I'm using it, so I don't know. Maybe it being there would be fine too, but I don't know. This is a mystery. I think we need to start.
Look at that.
Oh wait,
Ooh.
but the A didn't work. When you clicked A, it didn't work, did it?
No, it didn't. And that makes me think that there might be data missing for A, but
Well, but right now you have you have it hard coded.
It might not
Oh,
be a change.
but you have A.
change.
You have A selected.
okay,
though.
since I have it hard coded, then that means that it took a second hit in order to make it work,
Evidently,
right?
it
Let's
does.
try it again.
if I'm not mistaken, that way that you did it, the scope apply with, or rather the digest or whatnot, maybe what you need to do is reference the field and then do the scope apply on the field directly as a method rather than a scope apply like an overall form thing.
Maybe, something I'm noticing right now is it works for anything other than A. Like if I hit A, it's a no-go.
It did though.
It did, didn't it?
It takes a second.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's try that again. I could have sworn. I don't think I really need to do
I think we
anything.
need to ask your versions at this point. What do you think, Dale?
Ask my versions.
Yeah, what you're running.
Is that a personal question? What is that?
your Plantain app version and your form builder version.
Okay. It seems to be working better now, by the way.
Yeah.
Where is that?
It's on the bottom of your screen.
Okay.
1,
Yeah.
2, 4, 5, 1.
And then under updates, we can check forms specifically. So 24. 24.15.
Okay, but it's been working now.
So since it's an API call, it may take a second. Yeah. So
Is that what? Well, that couldn't have been the issue because we waited longer than that before.
yeah, but
But
each call
maybe
could take different time.
Okay. Okay. And it seems like that last scope change, Patrick, might have been the thing that's making this show up.
Yeah, maybe. I feel like that I've had this work before without having to do that in this specific scenario. But it does seem to be helping. So
Well, I'll take it off one
So
last time, and then I'll let everybody go on this. Did you still want to say something, Dale?
yeah, just you can go back to restricting your API as well to make sure that
Okay.
that part of it wasn't the problem all
Okay.
along.
Would updating the form in the JavaScript automatically take out any caching issues that, in testing, they had an old version of the form coming up?
He's hitting a refresh, so it should be fine.
He is good. Okay.
Oh, I think that showed up before I hit that second button. It was just a fraction before. I'm not going to get a different value if I hit it again because it's hard coded, but let's just try it again and I'll wait a little bit longer. No.
Nope.
A second hit, and there it is. But your scope refresh would have done it immediately, and here a second click is required without the scope refresh.
And since you're not changing the data, you don't know whether it's updated data or not.
That's a good point.
Can you try one thing? I'm just curious. Refresh that and click on A, but don't click on B. Just click off of that field.
Mm-hmm.
Click
A
A.
On.
Now click somewhere else.
I did.
Yeah,
That's what it
what's
is. Your
happening.
on change, it's not the second click. The on change is not working on this field until you lose focus
Focus.
of
Not
what
firing.
you clicked.
Yeah.
Right. I think you got it, Ben. Why not?
So in
That's
terms
I
of
had yeah.
so in terms of the product on change click, we should see clicking the radio button should trigger an on change
Yeah,
click.
as a matter of
It's
fact,
not.
this past week. Yeah. Go ahead.
Could you change that from the radio buttons type to you've chosen the styled version, right?
The styles version. I'm not sure what that means. See part.
So you've got them displayed horizontal. No, don't change that. Scroll down. Radio bot. You've got radio buttons. Yeah. Uncheck
You want to see that? Not okay.
Yeah, I'm just
Anything
wondering
else?
if it's that. Nope. One change.
Well, I could have messed around for a long time, not having ever tried that. I haven't clicked away yet, and now I am.
Yep. So it doesn't matter which way it's being rendered. It's just that we need to take that into to the product team.
So
Yeah.
is it just the radio buttons that's not doing that? Because I could just try a different type of field. This is
And
mostly for
Correct.
me.
Drop
A
down.
drop down.
Yeah.
So when you initialize the radio buttons, you're using original dot or colon port as your initialization. Is it putting a null into that field because nothing is initialized, so thereby it doesn't recognize the on change because it equates to null? If you actually put, pick A as your initialization in the initially checked.
Yeah, but it wouldn't. I don't know. It's a good question.
You want to try it? Where is that? Up there.
Just below.
I can come back and change it into a drop down in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
A is already chosen. Choosing
Yep.
V, and now I'm clicking away. Okay, that was a good test. That's what I do all day. Now I'll change it into a drop down. Do you guys care if we leave A there or put it back in? Okay. So now it's a drop down. Click away. How about that? It requires a click away.
So remind me, with the scope apply, that worked, right?
I think it did.
So it kind of forced the issue, and so it shouldn't have to. If we were firing the change event.
I agree. It shouldn't have to. In other situations, I know it would not need it. There it is. Yeah, the scope apply works. Okay, well, that's a little bit of a head scratcher there.
It is. When you had the alert in there, the alert was happening immediately, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was.
Well, something to investigate for sure.
Okay, well, yeah, and what matters to me is it's now working. So thank you, especially Patrick, for that last statement in there, scope. All
Cool.
right.
Don't forget your
Thank you,
security.
guys. Okay, I won't forget, but I'll let you guys off the screen so you can do something else.
Mark, I have a quick question for you.
Yes,
I was
Ben.
talking with the with my mute on. Just out of curiosity, in that particular form, is there a reason you're using a large text area? You're expecting people to change that data?
No, they will not be changing that data on that screen.
You could probably avoid this whole scope thing because this is what I do all the time. Use a div in a static text field and your JavaScript have it update the inner HTML of the div. It's an immediate effect.
I'll try
I
it.
do it all the time. And that way you have a box that there's nothing they can do. It's just text. They can't tap in it. They can't change it, nothing. Giving a text box gives the illusion or the understanding that they can type in there. And they could, if they click in there and they start typing, they could type stuff in there. But if you don't want that to happen and you just want it to be a display of read-only data, then static text box with a div that has an ID, give that div an ID, and then in
Yeah, I
your
can handle that.
Ajax, just call the object by that ID and then do dot inner HTML and give it,
No.
put data in there.
Okay, sure. I'll give that a try and see if that works any better. This form is for my use only, so I would have never clicked in there and tried to type, but that is a good point, and I'll give it a try.
Becomes a full learning opportunity for all of us.
Thank you, guys.
So Ben, following up on that, if you put that div in there, you basically could build any HTML in that div and address it and however anything you want to do.
Format it.
Yep, it's pretty much
Headers, footers.
what I've done in so many different areas. I've created dashboards off of an API that refreshes every 30 seconds. I have other things, there's a lot of different areas, but yeah, it's static text box in there. All I do is div ID, give it a name and close out the div. That's it. You don't put anything in it, just that it exists with that ID. And elsewhere, the JavaScript that calls the API in that done function area you're going to reference the div by its ID. So, find the element by ID. And then once you get that element, dot inner HTML equals, and then whatever data you want to shove in there. And that data can be HTML.
Cool.
Okay, guys, so follow-up question. You saw that I was using an API on click change to look up something from somewhere else and bring it back into the form. Would you guys have approached that any other way? I will learn from you. In the past, I've used a button, but I was trying to use an API this time. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was going to point back to that. I know you've used a button before. You did it as a hidden button, and I've used that technique before. So your little bit of JavaScript says essentially push the button. The button does the work and does the AJAX. So as a low code, getting things to happen, and you would be able to do that then without an API call, right? Your code would stay in the form. I mean, it's essentially the same thing. It's just.
Is there a third option? There doesn't have to be. I'm just asking, what do I not know? Okay, I'll take that answer.
I'm just messing around here. I was thinking that we could turn this into a contribution so that now that we've got it solved, at least it's done, but that we don't have to go this direction.
Okay, interestingly enough, we are working on this issue that is related to on blur as opposed to on click or on change. And in the community forum this week, I added some code that would add the on blur to whichever fields you needed it to be on. Since all we have is on click change with a little bit of JavaScript, I'll show you how to add the on blur.
Do you have that handy?
I'm
sorry.
Community forum.
Let's do that.
If you're still looking for something to talk about, it's related. Move about 3 down. That's it. Save field on exit field. So Anthony had a good idea there. Honestly, I didn't understand it all. I couldn't digest it. Looks maybe more sophisticated than what I came up with. He was suggesting that should be built in. Peter had an idea, and there's my write-up on how to get it to work.
So you got a button that you hid, and you added class, save on blur.
Yeah, just so I could identify which fields were going to be added.
So this is the function that runs when field blurs.
That's the function it runs on when the form is loaded, and it adds a listener for the on blur fields, the fields that are marked to be on blur. So those are all going to be listened for. They've added an on blur action to them.
Interesting.
So since you're right there, if you don't move for a second, you can maybe discuss why I had to add a timeout to that script. It's right above your mouse pointer. We've got document.ready function, which should have waited until the document was ready, but it wasn't reliable. It would work every once in a while, but usually not. But as soon as I put a set timeout on there, then it worked reliably. And that baffles me. I kind of thought document.ready would take care of that.
I have
That
a
is
couple of forms that where document ready it's firing before it's ready, and I've had to do that before.
Did you use the same thing with the timeout?
I did use a timeout.
Yeah, I'm getting stumped on these things. I'm trying to run JavaScript on it when the form loads, and I'm getting inconsistent results. So I'm fumbling and looking for the solution here. But this works now. No comment from the plant and app team.
If you had one of the developers here, you'd probably get a comment, but I didn't.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay, thank you. I accept that answer. Well, thank you,
All
guys.
right.
I still have my first call.
All right, you can do it.
The in the CSV load, if you get bad data in a CSV load, you get an error that says bad data found, and enable. There's a flag to enable to be able to bypass bad data. But it didn't say how to enable that.
It's not an option within the item. It's the error message says, do this.
Right.
Yeah. I suspect that that means that there is a the underlying tool that we're using to do the import has that capability, but we're not revealing the ignore bad data as part of our interface, right? So
Okay.
the tool is giving a message that isn't useful.
Right.
You
And
can't capitalize on.
Is there a way or some place to set a configuration manually to allow that, something like that? Like if I go to a web config file or something, is that, and do we know what tool is being used to import CSV now?
My guess is no, right? Our action is calling a tool to do something. It's not, it's hard coded with that flag as off.
Okay.
And the tool is reporting, hey, turn this flag on if you want it. But unless we provide it in the action to say, to pass that value from the action configuration into the call to the action, I don't think there's any way to override it. That would be my guess.
Okay.
So it would be
a feature request is coming.
Yeah, you knew where I was going. All right, and that sounds small enough, right? But to just pass on, it's probably a true false or a multi-value flag that just needs to be passed a value. Okay, that was perfectly timed, Jim. You got us right to the end. So with that, I'll say happy low coding. Thanks for the spirit of trying to help one another. I know I come with problems, and you guys help me, or I learn from it every week. So thank you for that. Hope that you got good value out of it as well. Hang around for Afterglow for a few minutes if you want, and we will see you again next week.